Not hearing a follow-up, we go back to Scott Dipple.
Good heavens.
Many questions, Mayor. Can you give us a sense of, in the wake of something like this meeting that took place yesterday, what's the impact on the group dynamic as far as Councillor Maglioka goes? I would imagine amongst a group that you would think this person is making all of us look bad, and there'd be an element of shunning, or I don't know. How do you just sort of move on with this?
That's a tough one, and it's a tough one for me as the chair of this organization, which is obviously in any group of 15 people who've been working together so closely for such long hours as we do, you form relationships, you form friendships, you form frenemyships, and all of that happens. But I think what's critical here is that council voted unanimously for these sanctions, including all of these sanctions. And so regardless of where you sit, regardless of whether you're friends or frenemies or acquaintances with the councillor in question, council voted for this unanimously because that's how seriously they take it.
So the meeting resumed in camera after this decision was announced. Did Councillor Maglioka, well, he did take part, but did he show any contrition as he rejoined the meeting?
He didn't say a word in the meeting at all, other than here and yes for the votes.
Okay.
And we go back to Madeline Smith.
Okay.
And excuse me, Scott, I should be very clear because, of course, I cannot tell you what happened in closed session. I can tell you that in the public debate, and we did have a debate, he didn't say a word.
Thank you.
So I guess following up on that, is there a time period in which council might kind of expect Councillor Maglioka to respond specifically with that letter of apology that's been requested? Is there a certain time that you're hoping to see that?
Well, you know, council is about to go on its summer break, and I would be very disappointed if that did not happen before we came back from the summer break. I have not yet sent, it's been a busy day, and I have not yet sent a formal request to the councillor to send that letter, but he well knows that that has been requested of him by a motion of council.
The next question is from Kevin Nimick.
Hi, Mayor. Just a follow-up to your answer to Scott's question just a little bit ago, where you said that Councillor Maglioka had been silent, had not said anything other than exactly what he has to remain in the room. This seems to be a theme of at least his recent participation at council meetings. So aside from all of these allegations and these pretty serious concerns, what's the point of having a councillor that's not even going to be representing his ward vocally in meetings?
Well, I mean, look, councillors have certain different styles. Some of them like to speak on every single item. Some of them like to speak a lot on every single item. Ultimately, those are decisions that are not for me. Those are decisions for citizens. And, you know, I encourage everybody always to look at the record of the person in front of you, figure out what they've done, how active they've been, whether you agree or disagree with the work that they've done. You know, to Councillor Farkas's credit, he has tried to pick up the ball on something that I started 10 years ago, which is making it easier for people to know how their councillors participated and voted. You know, not everybody, I'm shocked at this. I'm shocked that not everyone wants to spend their entire day Monday watching council meetings, because I can't imagine anything better to do. But now the video is available, the archives are available, and people really can get a sense of how their representatives have been participating. And ultimately, that's a question for the citizens and for the voters.
Thank you.
Next question is from Don Braid.
Mayor, this goes back a long way, but I spent a lot of time in council over the years and I never saw anything like this. Do you want this man to resign? Will you as mayor say that he should resign?
First of all, Don, it is great to hear your voice. I'm glad to see you back on the saddle, so thank you for being here. And what a great Don Braid question. And you know that I'm going to punt a little bit on it, which is, of course, I have an opinion on that matter. Of course I do. And anyone who knows me and knows how seriously I take public service would know what that answer is. But you know what? It's not my decision. And regardless of what happens, I have a council to lead through very difficult times in a global pandemic, a horrifying economic recession, and we got to get to work. And I don't like having all these distractions. I want to get to work. But ultimately, that is a question for the citizens. It's a question for the councillor himself. He needs to look into his own heart and think in terms of his own values, in terms of what he does, what he thinks is the right thing to do, because only he can make that answer. But I will tell you that we're also forwarding this report to the Calgary Police and to the Minister of Municipal Affairs because, shall we say, they might have some input into that question as well.
Well, Casey Madhu could punt him, and the police could charge him. But would you go so far as to say that the municipal minister should decommission this councillor?
I'm usually not shy about telling the Minister of Municipal Affairs how to do his job, but in this case, this is something that they will have to take through their own processes.
Do you have any confidence that the police will actually do anything, given that there's an outstanding investigation of the UCP leadership process the police have had for 2 years, and we haven't heard a peep? That tends to be what happens when the police are asked to investigate and bring charges in a political forum. Would you be inclined to tell the police you're really serious about this and you want a decision on it?
I'm very serious about this and I want a decision on it. That said, one of the great things about our system is that I don't get to tell the police what to do, and politicians shouldn't tell the police what to do. But that said, look, I have been very concerned, and I've been concerned publicly about how long it takes the police, particularly on disciplinary work, to be able to do their job. I have to have a letter from the police saying on that piece of their work, internal discipline, they're going to be better and they're going to be faster. Ultimately, I would be very surprised if the Calgary Police, considering the seriousness of this case, did not start an investigation, whether it's them doing it or the RCMP or another agency. I can't control how long that's going to take. Like you say, the UCP leadership one, I think we're almost into year 2 or year 3 of that. And I would like the police to move faster on everything, frankly.
Thanks, Mayor.
The next question is from Scott Dipple.
Just to pick up on a conversation from last night, Mayor, can you now tell us what the total cost of the audit and the retaining of outside legal counsel is for the city?
I don't have it, I'm sorry. They've been so busy on the FOIP today that I haven't been able to get that for you, but I will find out and I will get Adam to share those numbers as they become publicly available, if they are publicly available.
Okay, and one other question regarding the sanctions. Should Councillor Maglioka ignore all of the sanctions? Obviously, he would not be recompensed for any travel. But is there any other recourse for council if he just looks the other way on everything?
Why are you making me so sad? No. We have
Taking you through the options.
We have a situation where the Integrity Commissioner not long ago made a ruling, and the member of council chose to ignore the ruling, and there is no recourse beyond that. Though I suppose any citizen could take that complaint again to the Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Okay. With that, we will be wrapping up.
Let me say one more word about that, Adam, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Which is, but ultimately this comes down to a situation of ethics. It comes down to a situation of really understanding our role as public servants. So, in the case of Councillor Farkas, he sort of had a leg to stand on in which he said, listen, I think what I did was right. It was about freedom of expression, blah, blah, blah. I disagree with him. The Integrity Commissioner disagreed with him. But it comes from somewhere. In this case, there is a report that shows that there were many, many ineligible expenses that were charged to the taxpayer. And if you're not going to apologize for that, then you have to ask yourself, what are you doing in public life?
Our last question today comes from Jackie Perez.
Hi, Mayor. Can you just talk about the rules that surround mandatory masks that's going to come into effect on August 1st and the fines that could come along with breaking them?
I sure can. Thank you. So people should be wearing masks now. Council has made that very clear. So you should be wearing masks when you're in indoor spaces like stores, as well as on public vehicles like public transit. On Saturday, we will start enforcing that bylaw. And so what that means is that you have to cover your nose, your mouth, and your chin with a covering when you are in a public vehicle. So think a bus or a train, or when you are in indoor public space like a store. There are some exemptions. Those exemptions include people with a bona fide medical condition that prevents them from being able to wear a mask, people who cannot put on or take off a mask easily on their own, people with disabilities, small children. And then there are a couple of exemptions for actions that you're taking. So if you're receiving a service or giving a service that involves the face, so, if you are at the dentist, for example, obviously you don't need to be able to doing that. If you are exercising, if you're doing strenuous physical activity, you may take the mask off. But in the gym, you will have to wear it in public areas. And I know this sounds really weird, but that means that you will have to wear it in the locker room as well, not while you're physically exercising. And if you're in a bar or restaurant, you may take off your mask once you are seated at your table.
And can you just clarify how it's going to be controlled? Are there going to be fines? How much?
So the fines are $50 for each offense for individuals. The council chose to reduce that fine a little bit this week. But I hope that we'll never, ever give out a fine, because our number one job is to help educate people. So the bylaw officers, the bus drivers, and others, the bus drivers will deny you boarding if you're not wearing a mask. You won't be able to get on the bus. But they will also have masks available so that you can put one on. Similarly, the bylaw officers will have a ticket book in their pocket, but they will also have masks. So they will always start with, hey, buddy, here's a mask. You need to put that on, rather than starting with the ticket. And my goal is that we won't see any tickets. And our experience has been, because we're not the first to do this, 3/5 of US states have done it. About half of the Canadian population today lives under a mask mandate. And we know that the vast, vast majority of people are very compliant. They know it's the right thing to do. And the people who are really bad actors on this are, even though you see lots of viral videos, those are few and far between. And I have a lot of faith in Calgarians to do the right thing.
Thank you.
And we do have one last question from Scott Dipple, and then
That's the third time you've said last question, Adam.
I'm well aware, and that's where we'll be ending today's media scrum.
Quick mask question for you, Mayor, and that is for Calgarians or people who have a legitimate health reason that they cannot wear a mask. Can you offer them any guidance in terms of what they should say, or how do they deal with a situation when they are challenged on that?
I'm hopeful that this is not going to be a big deal, that people will be honest and they'll say, it's very hard for me to wear a mask. I've got this condition or that condition. But I'll remind you that folks who have, for example, respiratory conditions and don't want to wear a mask are actually the people who are at the most risk. And most medical advice is that even if you've got a respiratory condition, you should wear the mask, because you're the one who's going to get very ill should you end up in a bad position. In some cases, that is going to mean that people will not be able to attend places that they want to attend, because you really do have to wear the mask. It's mandatory. But I hope that there won't be big fights about this. No one is going to ask to see your medical alert bracelet. We're relying on people to be honest, and for shopkeepers and others to be understanding.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks everyone. Have a great rest of the week, I suppose. I was going to say great weekend because I'm supposed to be off, but I'm not off. I'm sure we'll talk again. Thanks everybody.